Thank you for joining me. This is Kati Whitledge with the Beyond the Technique podcast. We're together. It's Thursday. It's our little short sesh that we do every single Thursday, you and I. And today, we're going to talk about going from one to two salon locations. I'm going to bring up things that other people who want you to be prepared aren't going to think to bring up. Maybe either they haven't done it or they've done it differently than the majority of people that I know. So we're going to get into it. Going from one to two locations. How do you know you're ready to scale your business to multi locations, first and foremost? Every logical person will say your systems have to be in place. Operationally, you have to have solid revenue, predictable systems, streamlined scheduling, strong team stability. All those things are very true. True. What they're not going to tell you is that it's an emotional decision. So, my first point from going to one to two locations is emotionally, are you ready to invest in having more to oversee? And it doesn't have to feel overwhelming. Having more to oversee isn't a bad thing, but you have more humans that you are eventually going to check in with, or the humans that you lead are going to have more potential humans to check in with. So, another emotional perspective is you may not be ready, but you're prepared enough that when an opportunity knocks on your door, you say yes. And what do I mean by that? What I mean is when we opened a second salon location, it's because we had a turnkey opportunity in a part of our greater area of our city that was beautiful. The parking was amazing, the location was amazing, the visibility, um, the setup, it wasn't too big. It was just under, I believe, 1,400 square feet. So our first location is around 2,200 square feet, maybe under 2,500, something like that. We have 14 styling stations. The second location has 8 styling stations. And so I thought, okay, well, what better way to take this leap than to have a space we don't have to put a ton into for build out expenses. It's ready to rock and roll, and everything about it looks and feels like us. So this is what usually happens is you're in an emotional position versus a logical. So logical is, oh, we have hit these KPIs. Now we can go start a second business, which is often taught. But really, it's, gosh, this opportunity came knocking on our door. We're in a good position. Could we be in better? There's always a better position you can be in. It's kind of like when you ask a married couple, hey, when are you going to have kids? I don't know. I mean, there's no great time to start a business, to buy a house, to start a family, to go to school. It's like you pick the time and you make it great. So if there's an opportunity in front of you, sometimes it is emotional versus logical. In fact, the majority of the time, it's emotional. Does the space look, feel like you? In fact, this is my first point along with the emotional side is, can you find a turnkey setup? So going from one to two locations, my advice would be find a location that is practically turnkey, where you don't have to get all new shampoo units, which are very expensive, the electrical, the plumbing, all of that. If you have to do a massive build out, we know that everything is very, very expensive right now. And this will lead into the second point. The second point is you need capital, not for the build out. You need capital to have the time to curate the human capital and the culture within the business. This was a learning curve. So going from one to two, we thought, okay, you don't want to rob Peter to pay Paul. What do I mean? I mean, you don't want to take half your team at location A to go start up location B, but you need to take some of your team there to be the culture keepers, to really live out the standards of your business. And in some sense, you are going to rob Peter a little bit to start up Paul. And so being mindful of that is super important, and having enough capital in place to give it time. because building out the great culture is what takes the longest amount of time. And for any salon owner that has had a salon for more than 5 years with a team environment or a commission environment, you know that the human capital and the culture is everything. And that is the part that is a constant work in progress. With in many ways, it's the most unpredictable as well. So it's got to be constantly curated. You need enough funds to help support that ramp up period. Another nuance from going to the first to the second location is that you are probably going to have a different market of clientele than you thought. You know, when you build out a brand, let's say you're like Lululemon Athletica or Athleta or Alo Yoga, like you have kind of in your head, this is our target market. These are the people that buy us no matter where they live. Having a salon and being in certain areas of your city, you might say we're this brand, but you're attracting possibly a different clientele and all great humans. They're all going to have certain things in common, maybe when it comes to economic capabilities. And of course, hey, let's say your salon specializes in naturally curly hair. The type of suburban business person that might come to location A is going to be very different than the downtown urban vibe that you or college student even that you might have visiting your business at location B. So you're really curating potentially totally different clientele. I know that at location one, many of our clients book right when they're in, or they'll call or text to book. Whereas our second location, which is downtown, more of an in city perspective, a lot of clientele book online. You're going to have these different nuances. So, in other words, be prepared to adapt to what the community wants, not necessarily, hey, this is who we want. Some people aren't going to drive to that downtown location and deal with parking in a downtown spot. That's okay. If you have walkability, if you're close to people who are on and working in that area, or a lot of people, young professionals work from home and they want that city life, you're just going to go about things differently. You might get out to meet people around those other city, inner city businesses to network and give out your cards and just start building those relationships. Whereas if you're in a suburban or business setting, that might be like you're going to business networking events, or you're hitting up online SEO more and Google ads and whatnot a little bit more. So it's just interesting to recognize that depending on where your second location is, you're going to curate a totally different team and clientele vibe. And let's get into that team. So it really becomes, and this is the third nuance, its own vibe and tribe. So how I kind of look at it is like we are one brand, one cohesive team, but we're like sisters. So location one is this sister vibe. This is the kind of the crew that's at this location. This is how it feels, the team dynamic. And then our second location is a totally different sister. And when you're a parent, you're like, I love both my girls so much. They're completely different from each other, but they can hang out. We go on family vacations. They love and support each other, but yet they're totally different. And that's going to happen. You're going to have a completely different vibe and tribe at your unique location. So what do you do to curate one cohesive team and brand? You have one channel where everybody sees what's going on. You want everybody to feel updated. When we first opened a second location, we'd say, you guys, one of our vendors stopped by to give us products to try that's brand new. Let's say you carry a product line like InnerSense or Amika. Amika is so popular, right? And Kenra or Bay or Arnco, whatever it is, whatever product line you carry, Aveda, the list goes on, Devanus. I'm like, I want to make sure everybody feels the love. So let's say one of your reps comes in and drops off products to try. Now the sister's going to say, well, are you going to let us try that at our location? And you got to be like, yes. Now you got to think of everything. We have these amazing hood dryers that are custom made from another salon owner in the Nashville, Tennessee area, specific for curly hair. I have the link in our show notes for you to check out this dryer. We've been looking for a big enough dryer that will encompass long curly hair and help set those curls instead of having to do that, hand diffuser forever in the appointment manually. So link is in our show notes. You're going to be obsessed. We are obsessed. So she says, Katie, I want you to take and try these out. They're brand new. And I was like, could we have one for each location? Now it is ingrained in us to think if it goes here, we got to have it here. And that is one of those little things. You never want one sister to feel more privileged or get special exceptions than the other. You want everybody to feel like equally loved and embraced. Now, with that being said, if you have different clientele at each, one of our locations currently does hair extensions, the other doesn't. Whereas the other location does perms, very modern, cool perm, and the other doesn't. And that's okay. You might have some of those little nuances going on depending on your team roster. But when it comes to supply and curating products, new things to try, you want to make sure, even when you set up your photography, you got to have one professional photography session here. And then you got to go down, to your second location and have your second session and just make sure that you're thinking about all sides because they really become two separate sisters, two separate vibes, two different team dynamics, even though you're one cohesive team. So make sure everybody's on the same page and your team meetings are all together. Your education and training is all together. When you do partnering events, try to partner people at different locations just so they get to know one another and build that camaraderie. Having team bonding events outside of normal salon business. Those are so important to go out of your way to curate so that you feel the sense of I'm part of something bigger than myself. And it's okay that I'm here and they're at this location. We're still one group with the same goal, which is to be successful in our careers, do really well, and have a lot of opportunity. We all get the same opportunities. Okay. So from a financial perspective, here's what's interesting. When you set up and go from 1 to 2 locations, do you have the business to be 2 separate entities? Is it one entity? How do you go about this? It was such a back and forth between my CPA and my business attorney that finally I said, that's it. And I got them both on a Zoom. And together we talked it out. And we landed on the perspective of our business attorney. So what we chose to do, and basically his advice is unless you're going to franchise, I would set this up as one, you keep it under one corporation, and then you separate on the back end the bookkeeping. So you still have where you can look at separate performance, but it's one bank account, one way to manage it all. And then you separate things out behind the scenes. So in your one bank account, you might separate things in your different savings account, especially if you follow that profit first methodology. All of that can still happen. Every week when we look at the performance of revenue and before we do our profit first move, we're looking at each separately. So those are really important key markers because you don't want to get in trouble where you're like, oh, this business can't stand on its own 2 feet. So we got to take from this business to cover that. You don't want to get in that situation. But from the ease of filing taxes and working on your business for scalability, my business attorney is the advice that we took. I would say, I don't know if it's the same in every state, but I will say this, it will save you a lot of decision fatigue, frustration, and hearing. It's like playing the telephone. You get your CPA's advice or your bookkeeper's, and then you get your advice from your business attorney or other advisors. Get them all in one room. Let them hash it out. You listen, and then you ask questions. Then you have to just trust your gut and go with what you think is the right call. And there really is no wrong way to do it. There are little irritated things you might have to deal. If you go this one route, here's what might be irritating about it. If you go this route, here are going to be some of the frustrations you deal with in this route. There is no perfect way, and you can't really mess it up. You just keep plugging away and making changes as you go. So I hope that this helps. There's going to be more little nuances that you're going to find when you go from 1 to 2 locations, but in a nutshell, it's an emotional decision. Unless you are, and here's what I will say. I've seen an owner have one location they started up, and about a year and a half later, they went to location 2 too soon, in my opinion. They got really emotionally excited about the location of where the second location was, and that might be a little too soon, but you never know. It's like they learned, you will learn too. The timing, it's got to feel right. You got to be excited. Well, here's what happened. Their second location was so cool. It was so cool that everybody at the first location want to actually go and work at the second location. The first location started going downward, and the second location was growing. All of a sudden, the second location has to help cover the lease for the first location because the first location is falling out. They closed down the first location. They just stay open in their second location. And 2 years later, they're like, I can't handle this. This is going under. And they wanted to pass the torch of the business altogether. I don't want to see you get into any of those type of sticky situations. From that perspective, I think take your time. And then, by the way, this is somebody newer to the beauty industry. So take your time. I think that if you have at least 3 to 5 years into being a salon owner, that will give you enough time and experience to learn some of the business side. And that, when I say that, I mean, like, you are on the business side of things. You have dealt with the filing of the taxes, the recruiting, the retaining, the training, the growing the clientele. I mean, it takes time to build up enough credibility for your first location, to whereas everybody kind of knows in the area about your business. You're found on Google, you're found through ChatGPT nowadays, right? You're found everywhere, you're known. You have to have enough street cred so that when you go to a second, you just keep reminding people over and over and over, hey, we got 2 locations. And by the way, what's cool is when you have gotten to that point with enough street cred and visibility, then the demand is going to be easier for you to grow that second location. But it's not without effort. When we went into our second location, we were one of the main awesome salons available for people. And now on that same street, there's 3 great salons. And we're like, dang it, it's more saturated. You have to try a little harder. You got to be mindful of what are your hours? How are you competitive with your hours, your services, your pricing, and ease of booking? Are you making it easy for people to get in, come in, and do business with you? So I would just say none of this is going to come without learning curve, and none of it is going to come without risk, but the reward can be wonderful as well. And here's what I'll say too is you will never know the cool things about having multiple locations to then go and do other cool things in your life to really divide and create multiple channels of income for your life, to build a legacy beyond just our industry. Whatever you want to do, this is amazing experience. You can't get this from college or school courses or conferences. You have to actually do it to learn it, and then you'll have a ton of wisdom for many years to come. So if you're in this situation and you're thinking about going from 1 to 2, these are just a few things that we've learned along the way, and hopefully it's helpful for you. And again, find that sweet spot. You never know. And I'm going to just end with this one more thing. I had a salon owner reach out and share that her second location opened because she went out of her way to kind of knock on doors and say, hey, we're actually looking for a second location because we're way overstaffed here. And it was because she put herself out there where somebody was like, I'm ready to pass the torch at my business, come in and take over. And she did. And so you might be right. Then somebody might come knocking on your door, or maybe you go knock on somebody else's door, but preparation meets opportunity. You can only prepare so much. Part of this is going to be emotional. You just have to take the plunge and give it a shot. But I think it comes with a ton of learning that you can't get anywhere else besides doing it yourself and gaining that experience. So hopefully you're inspired, you all. If you really appreciate this platform and our little chats together, please take a moment wherever you're listening to leave us a 5-star review so that more people like you will discover Beyond the Technique, where we're here to change the way that you are supported in your business. Until next time, have an awesome day and stay strong.
Did you know over 60% of first-time clients do not return for a second visit? That is so painful, but it doesn't have to be that way. That's where Maya comes in. Maya is the ultimate marketing software for the beauty and wellness industry. We have a proprietary funnel utilizing special algorithms to help connect the right consumers with the right providers at your business. This means that Maya helps you get higher spending clients you love to work with who stay the long haul. If you want to increase your revenue, increase your client count, increase your average ticket, and increase your new client retention, then you need Maya. Go to joinmaya.com to set up your own personal virtual tour and see why over 500,000 consumers have trusted Maya and the businesses we work with to find their perfect beauty and wellness pro. We promise you will love Maya.